Alright guys, back with another video for you guys today. Back in the 90s, there were, at least to me, 3 destinations to be over the course of a weekend. It was Friday nights, Saturday mornings, and Saturday nights that I look forward to most. Those of you who, know, you grew up in the 90s, you might know what these 3 things are. Saturday mornings were dominated for most part of the 90s by a certain morning block on a certain channel. Saturday nights was the same thing. Different channel, new block, 2 hours of programming every Saturday night. But Friday night started off the weekend. ABC, Friday nights. September 22nd, 1989, the TGIF block was introduced. Sure, they had other shows on before that, but when the first started calling it TGF, they had these shows that, were being aired at this certain time. First one I want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about all of them, just ones of note, and there's some that are just lesser ones that I want to skim over, but the first one we'll talk about is Full House. Now, Full House came out 1987, same year I was born. So 33 years ago almost. And this was 1989, so it was like season 3, I think, that it started here. And but it was the first big show for TGIF, at least at this point when it was called TGIF. There are other shows which we'll talk about, but this is the first one I'm going to talk about. You know what it's about, right? After the death of his wife, Danny Tanner is left alone with his 3 daughters. So his brother-in-law, Jesse, and his best friend, Joey, move in to help take care of the daughters. Throughout the course of the series, throughout the course of the series, other characters would come in, the house would expand, and more people would be living there, and of course we'd have the spin-off Fuller House. But it was one of those shows I always remember watching when I was a kid, and I think it was towards the end. By the time I started watching TGIF, it was towards the end of their run on there. This show, as well as 2 others, would eventually be moved to a different channel. But yeah, Full House was the first one. We then had Perfect Strangers and its spin-off Family Matters. You see, during the 3rd and 4th seasons of the show, Harriet Winslow was an elevator operator at their place of business. And then she spun off to their own show, Family Matters, which would eventually be taken over by Urkel. And they would run concurrently on the block, with Perfect Strangers lasting 7 seasons and Family Matters lasting 9 seasons, I believe, and this lasted 8 seasons. We would then move on to a sitcom that coined the phrase "Not the Mama" with dinosaurs, which was the first sitcom to feature puppets created by the Jim Henson. Right? I mean, it was the Muppet Show back in the 70s and 80s, whatever, but this one was really like, it was a sitcom. It was a full sitcom with puppets, not a variety show. And yeah, it was great. And I remember fondly watching that. That lasted 4 seasons. And it was on, I think it was on the block for the whole run. And we have Step by Step. And this was one of the 3. Full House, if I'm calling it right, Full House, Family Matters, and Step by Step during their last few seasons went to CBS. If I remember correctly, at least the last season of Full House went over to CBS, I think. I'll have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And of course, the last 2 seasons of Step by Step went to CBS, and it was the last couple of seasons of Family Matters, but that caused problems. But TGIF, they would bounce back with other shows. Step by Step was it's like the Brady Bunch, but for the 90s. It was a man named Frank with his three kids, which Al, what's his name? JT, and he had 3, right? Was it Brendan? I think it was Al, JT, and Brendan are his kids. And her kids, I forget her name, Carol. Her kids were Karen, Dana, and Mark. And eventually, Frank's nephew Cody would also move in with them. And it was basically a Brady Bunch situation, all live in the same house and stuff. And then when it went over to CBS, they brought in Bronson Pinchot, who was no longer on Perfect Strangers as Balky. He was there, and he was Jean-Luc. And actually, a Boy Meets World recurring actor, Jason Marsden, would actually become a regular on this show. I think season 5 was when he started being a regular. And then that would move over. Eventually, they would also have another kid, which was, Lily, I think her name was. But yeah, it was a pretty good sitcom. And, to date, as far as I know, this is the only DVD release. It's a custom case, but it's the only DVD release. It's like a few episodes. That's it. I've watched a bunch off of YouTube, but yeah, they're not the best quality. And like I said, they were going, those shows were going to, eventually go to CBS. But there were other shows that would come along. And it amazes me through all this shows that were coming and going. And there's a whole bunch of shows that I hadn't even seen, so I couldn't even talk about. But with all the shows that were coming and going on this, the one show that was never placed in TGIF, as popular as it was Home Improvement. It was always on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, one of the two. But it was never on Fridays for some reason. I looked through that whole list. It was not mentioned once. It was never on TGIF. I thought it was at least once, but no, it was never on TGIF, not once. But I'm surprised, how popular TGIF was, how popular Home Improvement was. I guess if TGIF was as popular as it was, they didn't need to draw. They didn't need a draw, so they didn't need to have Home Improvement. And by the time that TGIF was in decline, Home Improvement was already done. So, they really needed it, I guess. Well, the next big hit was Boy Meets World. And Boy Meets World was about Corey Matthews, his best friend Sean, his eventual girlfriend Topanga, and his brother Eric, and other characters along the way. I remember liking the later seasons, like 4 through 7 are the ones that I gravitate towards. 3 is good too, but the first 2 are a rough watch for me, watching them over again. There is one episode in season 1 that gets me, and when I do my top 10 favorite Boy Meets World episodes, you'll see what I mean. But I will be doing that soon. But yeah, and this is especially, I'll talk about this here. The series finale, I remember when I first watched it, I didn't get the concept of a series finale. I was like, whoa, they're going to go to New York. This is going to be cool. I'm ready to tune in next week, and it was either a rerun or something else was on. I was just like, what? Okay. Sure. But my mom had to explain to me, the show is over. It's not, that was the end. I was like, no, they're going to go to New York. No, that was it. That was the end. I'm like, oh. And rewatching the reruns and stuff, I understand it now, but it was, I was confused. This was in 2000, so I was 13. Yeah, around 13. But yeah, this is one of my favorite shows growing up, and I remember watching it the most on TGIF. Then you had your other shows that came around, like Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Sister, and Muppets Tonight, which weren't as popular. They're good shows, don't get me wrong. I watched Sister on the Disney Channel a lot more than I did on TGIF. Hanging with Mr. Cooper, I remember watching on Nick at Night more than here, but I did remember watching it. But I'm just skimming through these because they're not big ones. The next big one that would come up with would be Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which would last the first 4 seasons before jumping over to the WB. But yeah, that was a great one. And this would be the time when TGIF was at its peak. They have Clueless, but then that was moved to UPN. I'm talking about that. Clueless was based after the movie, and then they moved that to UPN after a couple seasons, and then this is the block I remember the most for some reason. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, You Wish, Boy Meets World, and Teen Angel. That was the block I remember the most for some reason. I don't know why. And then the later block, of course. But yeah, it's just like Sabrina the Teenage Witch was on. They even did a full night crossover starting with Sabrina the Teenage Witch, where Salem the cat, Sabrina makes a time ball as part of her, as one of her quizzes to get her witch's license, and Salem swallows the time ball because she used fish to make it, and it sends. She uses it to send to the 60s and sends them to the 60s, and then Salem swallows it and moves on to You Wish, in which they're stuck in the 50s, and then he moves on to Boy Meets World, and they get stuck in the 40s, and then finally ends in Teen Angel, which they're stuck in the 70s, and that was a big thing. I watched they had the whole thing on YouTube, and I watched that. That was pretty cool. I don't think they have it in anymore. I've tried to find it. Excuse me. Tried to find it. It's not in there anymore. I don't know, but it was pretty cool. After You Wish and Teen Angel were both canceled, they brought in the Olsen twins, came back to the TGIF for Two of Kind, airing alongside Sabrina and Boy Meets World, and then another show called Brother's Keeper that started Alex D. Linz, and it was about a single father and then the father's brothers coming along and they were kind of, and it's weird because Two of a Kind was also about a single father, but he's got two daughters instead of a son, and then they got the babysitter named Carrie, and then halfway through the series, David Lasher, who was on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, left Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which maybe he left Brother's Keeper to go to Sabrina the Teenage Witch, because I remember he was in the WB episodes of Sabrina the Teenage Witch too. So maybe he was on this first, and then went to Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I don't know, but I remember him being there. And yeah, that was really kind of, another one I remember. And the final show I want to discuss within the original run, there's a bunch of other ones that were coming on that weren't big enough. And then there was two guys and a girl in a pizza place that came along. And this was towards the end of the original run. I don't really remember. I remember watching this back when it was on. But it wasn't really that big of a, and then eventually it would become two guys and a girl separated here. And then the original run ended on September 8, 2000. And just kind of wouldn't be there. And then on September 26, 2003, it was brought back. And the only three shows I remembered, being noteworthy were George Lopez, which, was a big one. 8 Simple Rules, which originally aired on Tuesdays, I believe, and then Hope and Faith. And then the second run lasted for 2 years, September 16th, 2005. And they even tried to bring it back again. I don't think they called it TGIF. The third run started on October 5th, 2018, and ended on September 20th, 2019. So it didn't last that long. And from what I remember, it was like 2 TV shows that weren't really sitcoms, and then a game show that was an hour long. That kind of didn't fit, the whole TGIF shtick, where it was 4 sitcoms. Was what, I remember they brought it back, and I remember looking at the block, and I'm like, no, that's not TGIF. There's 2 shows that aren't really sitcoms. I don't remember what they are, but they weren't. I don't think they were sitcoms. They're like serious half-hour programs or something, and there was a 1-hour game show. I'm like, no, I'm cool. If they try to, bring in their other sitcoms, like, I don't know. But I just remember, TGIF dominated Fridays back in the 90s. It seems like when the 90s ended, all the good stuff on TV. I mean, there's good stuff on TV, don't get me wrong, but like all the best stuff went away. It's like 90s are gone. You know, ABC also had their Saturday morning stuff with the one Saturday morning, which I may talk about, and then later ABC Kids. But Friday nights were TGIF nights. And yeah, just thought it'd be longer than this. It just, one of my favorite things was, I remember I had this little ass black and white TV, right? Where you had to, it's one of my oldest memories from watching TGIF. It was Family Matters. And it was in black and white. It was on this little black and white TV that I had. And I would set it up like somewhere in this kind of area. And then I would sit there with my toys and I would play around and stuff. I was a little kid. And I remember one episode of Family Matters where they're in the park. And Urkel gets in this refrigerator thing. And he turns into Bruce Lee. And he's just like, whoa, I'm Bruce Lee. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And he's beating up these bullies. And it was kind of cool. I remember it being in black and white. To this day, I sometimes like to watch stuff in black and white. Don't get me wrong, it's a, we got HD TVs and stuff now, but back in the day, for the longest time, because my family couldn't really afford much, we had like the oldest kind of TVs. Like my sister had this big old TV you had to adjust. It was an older TV. You had to adjust stuff. And eventually just went, you can see his lines. TV I had went out. And then I had to watch TV in my sister's room. And then that went out, so I had to listen to it. And then eventually I got a better TV. I think one birthday or something, I bought a TV. I bought a VCR DVD combo. I was sad. I ended up getting a GameCube. If you work hard and you want something, go out there and get it. But I'm lucky right now. I got 3 TVs, and but back in the day we didn't have much, and that's the way it was. But we didn't have cable. So those of you who had cable back in the 90s probably didn't enjoy TGIF as much as people who didn't have cable and just, hey, something's on Friday nights, let's watch. You know what I mean? TGIF for me was that. I just remember fondly watching these shows, and it shows you, what impact they left on me, and I bought the DVDs. Boy Meets World most of all. I think out of all these, I watched it the most. Because it is probably my favorite show from back there. It's not my favorite show anymore. Supernatural is taking that over, but, yeah. I feel old. That's what happens when you start bringing up your past for your birthday month. But yeah, and while TGIF dominated Friday nights, there was another block, a certain kids block that dominated Saturday mornings. What is that you say? We'll get to that in the next one. Until then, like, share, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.